Okay, so before we begin, I think I just need to answer the question, why did I decide on these two devices? I specifically ordered these as my first review units for my channel because I feel like they are the biggest competitors for the budget versus quality market right now. There is a video out there comparing the Miyoo Mini to the 2ATV, the RG2 ATV, but in my opinion, I think these two are better suited because I think the people shopping for this are going to be shopping for that. The reason I say that is because when I went to find an affordable device, I ended on these two. So I think depending on which angle you come at this, you'll end up at the 2ATV versus this place, or the V90 versus this place. And so today, if that is where you are, this video is for you. So perceived quality is how it would seem when you look at it, and I think that's a very important theme that's going to go on throughout this video. And so the PowKiddy, when you open it, has that terrible clicking sound when you open it. From the moment you open it, it feels like it's breaking. That just doesn't sound good. So that's the first thing. And then as you start to look around the edges, like little things like finishings around the edges here, these buttons just seem loose and not fitted properly. The way that it joins here, it doesn't look like the plastic has actually been sort of finished off or polished off. When it arrives, the screen guard is underneath this ridge. And so the perceived quality of this device when you first receive it isn't good at all. It just doesn't seem like a very high quality device. And so I want to say that from the outset, because some people are going to receive this device and go, oh wow, it's incredible quality, or this one and go, wow, this is terrible quality. And I think we'll reach the end and realize that they're kind of similar. You know, let's get into it. Okay, and then size. You know, in terms of overall, I'm just going to say on the outset, both of these, in terms of, let's say we're saying sizes, a small size is a good thing in this situation. The PowKiddy gets a 4, this gets a 5. The reason this beats it out is just the width. So it's just a little bit narrower, which makes it easier to fit in your pockets. Just from a real world perspective, I've been using these two a lot, and this fits into your pocket far better than this one, okay? But, you know, it's just because it's a little bit wider. However, the thing about the PowKiddy is, you know, for storage, size is important for storage, for carrying it to places. When you get somewhere, you get to open this up. Now, the screen sizes are actually pretty much similar, but this does become bigger in the hand, but that becomes a plus for this device later on in the review. So we'll talk about that later. Anyway, so for size, I'll give this a 4, this a 5, if we're deciding that a small device is the best device. Now we get to actual quality, and so this is just something that you'll have to take my word on. I haven't done a teardown on these, but the more I use these, the more that I'm of the belief that they're pretty much on par. I would say both of these are a solid 4. Like I said before, the perceived quality of the Miyoo Mini is far better, and we'll talk about the buttons and things later. But I like the playability of these buttons just as much, and they seem like pretty decent and pretty good quality buttons. And overall, it's actually a pretty rugged device. So actual quality, I actually put these on par with each other. Buttons. This is where things get interesting, is this D-pad is very mushy, and it doesn't have a huge amount of travel. These buttons also don't have a lot of travel and are a little bit smaller. They're a little bit smaller, but again, I just enjoy using them. The usability of them is pretty decent, and I don't have many complaints. It's just that they are a little bit small. The shoulder buttons on this are quite nice. They're soft touch buttons, and in terms of actually using them with the ergonomics of the device, I actually do use these shoulder buttons quite regularly, although this is underpowered and you can't use them that much in many games. In terms of buttons, I would give the PowKiddy a 3.5, and I'd give the Miyoo Mini a solid 4. I don't have too much to complain about. They're not as like mushy as the V90, they're a bit more clicky, which some people might enjoy. I actually prefer the V90's mushiness. This D-pad is very nice. It's got a bit of that sort of knocking that some of these membranes create. It does do that, but overall, I really, really like this D-pad. It's one of my favorite D-pads. The RG350M has got a nice D-pad. I prefer the D-pad on this. So that's pretty high praise for the Miyoo Mini's D-pad. And then in terms of, like, scientifically, these shoulder buttons are very, very nice. They're angled up, but now the problem is, how do you hold it? So they're very nice. So just scientifically, these are great buttons. But we'll move on to the other topics to discuss how, even though they're really nice buttons, what's the point of them? Okay, so a good segue now into ergonomics is actually using these devices. So what I mentioned is the PowKiddy does get bigger when you open it, but therein lies the secret. So the balance. So when you balance this, the balance is sort of there. And so when you're holding it here, you're not getting a lot of like strain either way. And look, my fingers naturally kind of curl around the back of the device, and I've still got room to play. And so I said in my initial unboxing of this device, if it had a more powerful processor in here, I would get if they said, okay, there's a black version now with a more powerful processor, I would definitely sell this one and buy that immediately, because this, in terms of ergonomics, beats this out, because the size, it wins on size, but how do you use these buttons? I can't press down here without my thumbs pressing down here. And then another big downside is I've been playing Game Boy games, and it's got fast forward set to this R button, and it's got the changing the color palette set to R2 and L2. And so I was constantly changing the color palettes and accidentally fast forwarding the game while I was playing. So the workaround was that I could disable these, but they're not. This is where I would rest my fingers, but I can't actually use the buttons. It's a nice place to rest your fingers. But I end up holding the device like this. And so when I do my full review, I'll explain to you why I love this device. It is a wonderful, wonderful device, and I think it is beautiful. I think this is the one you should buy out of these two. But in terms of ergonomics, this is a 4 and this is a 2.5. Sorry. Okay, so in terms of display, where this beats the Miyoo Mini out is that this is a brighter screen. So I've set them both to the brighter setting, and I'm running Onion OS on here, but this is definitely a brighter screen. When I use this at night, I have to turn it down quite a bit because it just is a big light in the room, whereas this, not so much. I'm constantly trying to turn it up when it's already up at its fullest. So in terms of brightness, this wins. But in terms of overall quality, so I want to talk about pixel density. So these manufacturers don't talk about the pixel density or the quality of the pixels on the screen. And this screen feels more, I would say, fluid. I like the RG350M screen, and so I'm just bringing that up. So in terms of, so when you look at this now, I'm not sure what looks better on the readouts, but in terms of everyday use, this screen just feels more natural. So I can't really give you any sort of tests on it, but you have to believe me. So this screen is more pixelated. This screen's nice and bright and everything, but this is a more natural screen and more easy on the eyes. And so out of these, I would give this screen a 3 just because it's not a great quality screen, but it is nice and bright and the colors are great. But this is a solid 5. This is in terms of handheld devices, I don't think you can get much better than that. So in terms of progression, we've got the okay one, the good one, the best one. Okay, so in terms of sound, these speakers are a little bit sharper on the ears. Nice and loud. You can hear that's full blast. Now I'm having to speak quite loudly in the office. I'll try to remove the noise reduction just for this test. But that is loud. It sounds nice. It's just a little bit, the word that I want to use is sharp. It's just a little bit mid-rangey. And so it's a bit harsh on the ears. It's not always enjoyable to listen to. But it is very loud. And I can't really fault it on that. Okay. So this, somehow, with a single speaker, just feels like proper 16-bit audio. Again, I can't give a scientific test on this, but I would give this, in terms of handheld sort of Game Boy-ish experience, I would give this a 4.5, and I'd give this a 3.5. Yeah, nice and loud, and nice 16-bit audio. So performance, I'll put the specs of these two devices on the screen here now. I'm not big on getting super into the technicalities of the performance of devices like this, or anything really. What I'm really into is how does it work in the real world? And so now when I was testing, I'd never actually noticed the NES Super Mario lags on this for some unknown reason. I don't know if I need to go reinstall the BIOS files or what it is. But every now and again, this thing will just bomb out. It just won't play a game. It just won't play. Mega Drive plays like perfectly. I find myself, this is my Sonic the Hedgehog device. But in terms of overall performance, SNES is very hit and miss on this, whereas this has a few SNES games, Super Nintendo games that it can't play. But overall, it plays everything up to PS1, and there's some, so like I said, these shoulder buttons aren't great, but, like the PS1 version of Contra, stuff like that works on here perfectly. And so what I said in my unboxing review is, this is designed to play the handheld consoles like Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, Game Boy, it plays everything else. But those three consoles, it plays so unbelievably well. That's what this is for. This is kind of for whatever you can get it to play. You kind of got to mess around. And like I said, it plays well with Mega Drive. SNES struggles a bit. Super Nintendo, Nintendo games. Like I said, no, I just couldn't play Super Mario. But there's a lot of NES games, Nintendo games. Contra also looks really good on this console for some reason, and it plays well. So there, so it's just hit and miss with the V90, whereas with the Miyoo Mini, it's very, very reliable in terms of what it can play. So battery performance, this Miyoo Mini, I haven't tested it, but is at least double the battery life. It's a 2000 milliamp hour battery. This is 1000 and something. This is 1020. And with that bright screen, it's chowing your batteries. And if you leave this switch on, even though you've powered it down on the software, it just kills the battery. So you'll find you'll be charging this more often, but it doesn't really bug me. The thing that annoys me is that they've supplied a nice Nokia battery with this, which you can find and buy. You can probably go to your local cell phone shop and get it. This, on the other hand, is a hobby grade battery. You've got to find one with the correct connector, the correct size and width. So I'm sure eventually the community will source them and everything, but I really am unhappy with how they saved costs with the battery. And even now, I was just trying to take it out for the review, and I actually was concerned that I broke this because this connector is quite difficult to connect. And plus, this battery door is not very good. That click is not very reassuring, and I know that over time this is just going to fall out. So that really, for me, is a big fail. And someone on my first video gave me a bit of an issue with that, saying something negative, but it's a negative thing on a really good device. Anyway, so battery, I have to give this one a 3, and I have to give this one a 5 in terms of actual battery life. We'll just grade it on the battery life, and we'll just ignore the facts right now of that terrible battery door. So as I mentioned, availability of the battery, So here's where I can grade this a little bit lower. I would say availability of the battery as it stands right now, this is a 1 star and this is a 5 star. So whatever. Okay, so problem areas. In terms of the build quality, so this is problem areas focusing on build quality. So I find this an interesting point because I wrote that theoretically down on my notes. I actually don't have any problem areas in terms of the build quality overall of this device. So I would give this PowKiddy V90, let's say a 3.5, just because it is a cheap feeling device. But I would, this Miyoo Mini, which is a very nicely made device, I'm going to give it a 4 because this battery door is concerning to me. So the firmware. I'm not going to get too deep into this. I'm going to point out one thing in terms of being intuitive. When you're in, let's get into, so when you're in the menu system and I want to, let's say I want to save state. A is back and B is select, and all like it jumps between the different emulators, and so each emulator has got its own way of working through the menus, and so there's no systematized way of using this platform. With this, no matter what system I'm in, when I press that, it's a back button. It just goes out of the game immediately. In order to get to the settings, there's a shortcut to get this button and select, the function button and select to get into your RetroArch menu, and you can do all sorts of things in the RetroArch menu. You can change the way it looks, you can change the way the function buttons work, you can change the way your actual buttons to play the game work. If these L2, R2 buttons are performing some sort of function in the game, you could disable it, you can change it, you can do all sorts of things. And so quit RetroArch. That's a very intuitive way of using the system. And then there's a bunch of other things, like when you switch it off, it's a single press shutdown, and then when you open it again, I think it's going to boot in the last game I was playing. Let's just see here. Yeah, so it boots immediately into Mega Man. Let's get out of there. Back button immediately. This is the loader for when you shut down, it loads the last 10 games you were playing. And then I can get back into my menu. And there's all sorts of things, like being able to install and uninstall emulators. So I can go in here and I can choose which emulators I want, and it'll remove it. Oops. It'll remove it from my menu. So you can bring your menu down to the bare minimum of whatever games you have on your device. That's very intuitive. So this, in terms of being intuitive, gets a 5. This, in terms of being intuitive, gets a 3. Emulators. This, for the most part, from what I can see, is using RetroArch emulators throughout. Experts, let's just see here. I use MGBA because it's, see it open and where I left this game last. So now let's see. Yeah, so it's still using RetroArch. So all the emulators on here are RetroArch emulators, up-to-date emulators. Some of them have been tweaked for this platform. It's really, really well thought out. So again, in terms of emulators, some of these emulators are old. I think I can update them. So let's give this one a 4 and let's give this one a 5. Themes. This is, I think this theme was made by Retro Game Call. There just aren't a lot of nice skins for this. So I think this is the standard one. The standard one's quite nice. So I suppose instead of being fussy, I should just say that the standard one is quite good. But for some reason, I just don't like it. I don't know why. And so, but that's probably what I will leave it on. The comic book one is a bit too sort of playful for me, so that's probably my standard one. If I press the select button, I can actually edit this. I can change some things. I can add a section. I can delete a section. There's a few things I can do there. So it's pretty user friendly. So in terms of themes, this is pretty limited. Whereas with Onion OS, already, I mean, I mostly just use the Onion OS theme because it's just really, really nice. But you can go in and let's just see their themes. I think this business one is quite nice. No, it is not. Codec. This is like a sort of gamer type one. There. Game Master, I think is the other one I like. That's quite nice. I use sometimes put that one on. A few others, but not really worth mentioning. Let's just switch. Oh yeah, the pixel shift is quite nice and simple. But at the end of the day, the default theme is the best, in my opinion. So nice themes and a really nice look. So I give this a 5. I give this a 3.5. Okay, compatibility and playability. You know, the thing is, like, if you're playing the right game on this, this is really nice to play, but I have to, in terms of, this is more compatible with more systems, and so I have to give the win to this. So in terms of compatibility, not all games work on this, so this is a 4.5. This is again a 3.5. Favorites folder, as I mentioned, this does not have a favorites folder. This makes a huge difference in your daily play, but I'm not going to add that to the score. Okay, so let's talk overall now the standout features of these devices. So let's look at the V90 for a bit. The V90, it has a unique design. So I haven't even mentioned actually the clamshell design, so let's just talk about that for a bit. People will buy this specifically for the clamshell design. It's reminiscent of a Game Boy SP. It's got that nice sort of feeling to it. It protects your screen when you run out. And so I need to fiddle with this again and get this set up the way I like it, because this is really nice to chuck in your pocket and go because of the unique design. That clamshell design really, really is nice. And I think that is one of the main reasons that people would buy this over the Miyoo Mini. Also, like I mentioned, it's, you know, the thing about this is, like, the perceived quality. This is a very rugged device. You know, if I had to decide to throw these two across the room, this is the one that I think is going to survive. The screen's probably going to crack, and the battery door is probably going to fly off, and the battery's probably going to rip out, and like the connector's going to break. This is going to survive. You might crack it, or, you know, the battery might pop out, but apart from that, you just put the battery back in and carry on. This is a very rugged device. And then again, I've mentioned the clamshell design, but it has to be mentioned, the screen is automatically protected. I don't think there's any other device on the market right now that offers that, the clamshell design. So that really is cool. Oh, the PowKiddy X18, I think. That's the only other one. So now the Miyoo Mini. And so it does seem like I'm actually slamming this device, but I have to kind of play pros and cons of each device. This device, the reason I still think this is the winner is the operating system. This Onion OS is phenomenal. It's when I got it and when I installed it, I couldn't believe it was free. This should be a paid upgrade. I think Miyoo should connect with the developers and say to them, listen, we'll give you product share and all that kind of thing, and we'll let you have a certain amount of money every time people upgrade, and they can pay to upgrade and then maybe buy the license or something. I don't know how those sort of things work, but it is worth, you know, I don't know. What would I have paid for it? I would have paid $20 for that upgrade. Don't tell them I said that. And then the premium look, that Game Boy look. At the end of the day, this is the one that I pick up because I like having a Game Boy experience. I even set my filters up and all that kind of thing to look as Game Boyish as possible, as retro as possible, and this is what I enjoy. I always got the wrong end. Yeah, so as a Game Boy experience, this super premium look and feel just lets me feel like I bought a budget device, but I actually got something that's just as good as an old Game Boy with a better screen. You know, it's a win-win. And then the screen. This screen, the more I use it, so when I did my initial unboxing, I said I prefer the screen on my RG350M, but this screen is just much better. It's easier on the eyes. I think there's more pixel density. I don't know if I'm using the right terminology, but that screen is more fluid, more natural. The colors are more natural. It's not super bright, but it's bright enough, and I just really enjoy the screen. And so pricing. I'll put this price on the screen now. At the making of this video, the V90 was $45.99 on Amazon. For some reason, it's quite affordable on Amazon. And the Mini is on special right now on Banggood for $53.99. The problem is availability. So the other aspect to consider is this one is always available. There's always stock of this. No matter what you do, you will always get one. This is, for some reason, Banggood are putting it on special. Supply and demand, I would just put the price up, because once these are sold out, it's probably going to be another 3 months before they restock. So if you order now and Banggood go, because they're famous for doing that, oh sorry, we've actually run out, you're going to have to wait for the next batch, you're going to wait 3 months like I did. And so availability is something to consider when looking at these. If you're getting into retro gaming and you want to just get started, you're excited about playing some Game Boy, some Nintendo, some Mega Drive, then just get this. There'll be some games it doesn't play, but it's available. However, if you are willing to wait for something that is really, really special, the Miyoo Mini is the way to go. Other options. When I looked at it, I realized there aren't many other options available for these prices. That's why I said this versus this is a better option, because the 280V jumps in price. So the 280V, the RG280V is $72.99 on Banggood right now. So it's quite a premium price. It is a premium product, but you know, I would rather get this over the 280V, just because it's quite a bit cheaper. And it's just a special, unique little device. And the 280V's shoulder buttons are even worse than this. And so, yeah, this is definitely a lovely little device to get over and above the 280V. Anyway, so, and then if you want to spend more money, I would say maybe go for the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus. Very nice device, but again, availability is an issue. It's a small company. And another one to consider is, I saw that the RG351P, a lovely little device, especially for Game Boy Advance and that sort of thing, is available now on Banggood at $89.99. So that is a very nice device if you are looking to get into retro gaming and you've got a little bit more money to spend. Okay, so conclusion, which one should you buy? I think the Miyoo Mini is my overall winner. Like, I'm pretty sure the scores tallied up to say that this is the winner. Personally, I can more comfortably recommend this and know that when it arrives at your doorstep, you are going to be very, very happy with it. The only downside I would say is this battery door and the trigger buttons aren't going to really play much for you. And so you need to consider that this is just a very powerful Game Boy, Game Boy Advanced, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Mega Drive, and some PS1 games that don't use triggers very vigorously. But if you are in a hurry to buy a device, if you really like the clamshell device, if you actually prefer something that sort of feels cheap and reminiscent of your childhood, then this is the one to go for. I don't discount this one. If you're at the checkout and that little bit of extra money, that $8 or whatever extra, is just too much, you don't have that money right now, don't shy away from this device. It is a lovely little device. There's plenty of information out there to get the custom firmware running on it, and just kind of count your losses. There will be some games it doesn't play, but overall, I mean, you're going to have hundreds of games to play. It's going to give you a lot of joy, and you've got that quirky little clamshell device. If you are older though, I'd say get the black one. I find this yellow one a bit embarrassing to take out in public. Thanks so much for watching. My name is Aidan Walls. Please subscribe to my channel below. Please click on the affiliate links. It helps my channel out a little bit, make a little bit of money so I can buy more devices to review. Yeah, I'm new to the niche. I'm quite enjoying it. My last video was about the Miyoo Mini. I gave my unboxing, but quite a lot of detail in that unboxing, so go check that one out. And then look out for my comprehensive reviews of both of these devices. I really believe that these two are the best budget devices in the world. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel. See you in the next one.